Bonjour, this is Jasmine. Thank you so much for stopping to smell the roses on Rue Madame. For those of you who are new to the neighborhood, I am a writer, a storyteller, and a community builder, and most recently, an author of a children's book. And check out the Rue Madame community on Patreon, where we are showcasing creative writing and full videos, podcasts, and an international community. Thank you so much for supporting. This video is actually a reaction to a video that I did just yesterday with a very smart guy. He's a sociologist major, Joshua, and he was kind enough and generous enough to talk to me about a post that he did about the relationship between Black men and Black women, and we kind of dove into that, and it was quite interesting. Um, it was supposed to be a group chat with many Black men, many Black women discussing this rift that has been in the center of this social unrest, has been in the center of this fight for justice. When we're talking about the disparities of the coverage between George Floyd at the beginning and Breonna Taylor at the beginning, when we were talking about the famous celebrities saying outlandish things towards one another, that was also in our community, and just things like that. So it's an ongoing and tug of war between the two groups. So this video that we did yesterday, Joshua and myself, we discussed this, or we attempted to discuss this and dissect it and try to just figure out what we can, come to as far as a consensus on our strategy to be better. And I really like Joshua's post. He's very active on social media. He is vocal and unapologetic, and he really gives his all as far as trying to raise awareness. And that is what Rue Madame is about, is uplifting the people that are uplifting other people, which is why I had the interesting person series at the beginning of the Rue Madame launch. And we interviewed Kyra and Erica and Tony and Bofia and that list of incredible people. So Joshua came on, and I want to show you snippets of our conversation. The full video will go on Patreon for the patrons that have subscribed to the exclusive content, the bonus content, and the goodies for people that really ride for me. Thank you so much, patrons. So I want to begin with what we began with. So let me show you that. So the post that I saw that really intrigued me I'll read it to you.
All right.
You said, Black men, my brothers, can we have a conversation about beating down Black women because some little girl hurt your feelings a long time ago? Shit is dead. And it goes a lot farther than that. But I wanted to ask you, like, what made you, or what prompted you to write that post?
Well, I guess several things. I guess the first is I'm the oldest of 10 kids. Like, I have 5 brothers and 5 sisters.
Wow.
And I recently moved back to Detroit. I'm from here. And I moved here to take care of my grandmother before she died, and then I recently just bought her house.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm back as a permanent owner now in Detroit now, I guess.
Congratulations.
But like being around my brothers and everything again after spending so many years away, I don't know. And this and people in general, and I've been around and seeing, there's a lot of toxicity here. And like I had to check myself and my own privilege and realize like I had studied a lot. I was a sociology major at Eastern. Well, I was
Okay. Okay,
and
so you were
psychology.
in Ipsy?
Yep. hmm
Okay.
For 6 years, and then I moved to Seattle, and then I moved to Portland, and then I moved back here.
All
But
right.
yeah, but I realized like I have to check myself sometimes in terms of like, yes, I have the language to understand why the culture is the way it is here, and why and the reasons that people are toxic here.
Are
And
you talking about particularly the Detroit area or just
oh
in
yeah,
the
no,
US?
I would say just maybe not just Detroit. I mean, it's I've been in other places too, and it seems to be pervasive all over the country, really. Like I've been to Houston and I've seen it. I've been to Kentucky, I've seen it. Yeah, several places. It's just hypermasculinity, and
Okay.
how toxic it is. The older I get, the more gross it gets, and it just makes me it's upsetting to me. So to one, knowing that where they're coming from with it, why they're feeling that way, and also me being impatient and wanting people to be where I am now and be enlightened as fast as I
Right.
can. It's
But
not
that
also like
takes a lot of work. I mean,
yeah,
you studied it.
for years.
It's refreshing to hear that from a black male because I don't think I was talking to my friend Ed just the other day about it and how in groups excluding other people just amongst you black men does conversations go this far as discussing the toxic masculinity and the bashing of black women and this a lot of anti-blackness and things like that. Do you have a conversations amongst yourselves about it or no?
I I don't know, because I wouldn't even get term classify myself as a stereotypical black male. Like I'm queer, so like a lot of
Okay.
conversations like, but I mean I'm I'm queer, but I'm straight passing, I guess. So like,
Okay.
and like I have more of a more of like a 70-30 masculine appearance and way I carry myself, just
Right.
naturally who I am. Um, so like I have that privilege. I
That
recognize
allows
that.
you to maneuver in
You know,
spaces where you're like
like even if I'm
unprotected.
queer and I have a whole different community I associate myself with most of the time.
Okay.
When it comes to the straight male black male community here, I have 34 first cousins, and the majority of them are male, and most of them live here in Detroit. I have my brothers and cousins. I have countless other straight male friends who who are younger than me, who all listen to me when I speak. Uh, I mean, like it isn't. It's I think it's more or less the fact that not less that I'm queer, that they can communicate with me. They don't
Okay.
feel I'm just masculine enough so they can have a conversation, and not feel threatened. But I but I'm queer enough that I'm different enough so that they feel like they're learning something new.
Okay. Wow, that's a very unique, I don't know, perspective that you can add to
Yeah.
uh predominantly toxic. So that was the beginning of our conversation, and it kind of like gives you the layers of his background and how he looks at the world, which is a very special and unique space in the black community, being pansexual and being in the queer community. So that was a very unique thing that he added, which was great. I didn't want to get off topic too much because this topic of the rift between black men and black women and protecting black women and mending this rift, it requires so many layers and so many different moving parts that we have to get a lot of nuance to really understand this, but it was really hard to stay on topic. I didn't want to start talking about this and that and these groups and these. I wanted to focus on black men, black women. But be that as it may, um, Joshua really hinted at some really good points of understanding where this rift begins and ends and how we can make these two ends meet. So he mentioned how there's a lack of communication and a lack of understanding. Great. That's where we can start with. Let's start with that. And I'll quote Joshua when he says, a lot of Black women just aren't heard. This is a quote from Joshua, which I thought was okay, dead on. Not very hard to come to that conclusion. And he was mentioning how since he's a queer person that passes to a lot of people as heterosexual, he's heard, and when he comes in a room, people listen to him, where Black women may not have that privilege because of their sex. And then we continued to talk, and like I said, I didn't want to go off too right or left, but we did a little bit, and I wanted to analyze why the topic was started to center on whiteness. And there was a picture in Joshua's post with a non-Black woman and a Black man, and how the person who posted this was very disrespectful to Black women and degraded Black women and was unnecessary. Like, you can love who you love without tearing down your community, and that's what I wanted to focus on: not tearing down our own community, not tearing down Black women. And with us talking about this photo, it was really hard not to focus on centering the white person in the because Joshua started talking about someone he dated, and then we started talking about loving everybody, and that's great. Whoever you love is great. Let's love and not hate. But as far as this conversation, I really wanted to focus on Black women and Black unity and Black love coming together and mending that rift. So that was the one swift detour, and we got back on topic. The next thing we kind of went off topic was about, I'll show you a clip and then I'll explain how that happened.
When it comes to celebrities, I like to give it a grain of salt, because Lil Wayne and 50 Cent are very rich, very, very rich, and that does attract a certain type of person.
Right. It
And so,
wasn't
like,
the person that they were attracted to that was the problem. It was the
no, that's not so. Like,
degradation of Black women was the
but
problem.
also Lil Wayne and 50 Cent aren't educated Black men. They aren't, and they are and this is the problem I have also with our community, putting MCs or any kind of celebrity on a pedestal as role models. They rhyme words really well, and they have
Right.
great good swag. That's it. We should not be listening to them on any other fronts.
Right. I agree. But it depends on where you're at. That is a privilege to say we shouldn't do this when the hood is listening to that. Like,
that's all we have,
we
though,
shouldn't
like,
do it.
yeah.
We don't do it, but it's being done. So they have some accountability, regardless if they're educated or rich or regardless.
I only say that because I know you're 100% right. They should be checked.
Right.
They should
They can say whatever they want to say, but we have to check them to prevent the perpetuation of ignorance. Especially with the Black community. And then we have the violence and the hurt and the pain and the disrespect that goes along with it. So yeah, we shouldn't listen to it, but it's being said. So we need to do something about it.
Well, what I try to do when I examine things or try to understand things, let me make sure I make this clear. I do not approve of anything they said in any way, fashion, or form at all. What I try to do, though, with things that I don't approve of first, I've learned to do as I gotten older, is to seek why someone would say that first. What was your motivation? How did you come to that conclusion? It's complete nonsense. But you're a human being just like me, and you've said things in the past that I've agreed with. So I have to know exactly how you got to that position. So that's why I was trying to do there, trying to understand how someone would come to this conclusion.
Mm-hmm.
They have spent the last basically our adult lives. I mean, I don't want to assume your age. You look, you're around my age. Like, basically our teenage adult lives making a lot of money, and going around the world sleeping with whoever they wanted to. Basically, they've lived in a life that most people would never see.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, they just live a different life, and not everyone has LeBron James integrity.
Mm.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and then not only do they not have his integrity, they make money on not have his integrity. You listen. I mean, I listen to the lyrics. I mean, I love lyricists, and like even if the content isn't what something I would agree with, especially being queer, I listen for the wordplay. I listen to the metaphors. I listen to all the things I love. I'm a student of English at the end of the day also. I
Yeah.
love I don't know. It just gets me going. I don't know. It just makes me happy just to see like Lil Wayne some of the ways he used to put things, and still does. Like and the way he did it. Like same thing with 50 Cent. Some of the way he said things, the way he swagged, the way he was. Like and
But
being a
that's a
black
good
man.
point that you're making up.
Yeah.
The way his work, regardless if he, I don't know if he has a degree or not, his work influences you on a level that's farther than superficial, farther than just what you hear. It's how you feel and eventually how you think, if you know that's how deep or how much you love hip hop. So
True.
with that being said, we shouldn't put them on a pedestal. We shouldn't put them on a pedestal. We shouldn't, but you can't kind of like disassociate, or a lot of people, maybe not on our level of intellect, but a lot of people can't separate that. So even if they listen to their music, they're also going to listen to things outside of their music, and it's going to affect them just as much. So we started talking about celebrities, and this particular conversation would be between two cis heterosexual rappers, very well known, and how the disrespect towards Black women should have been, and my intentions was to be the focus point. Please love who you love. Let's not hate. Let's not be discriminatory. And let's not police other people's preferences. Let's not do that. And that was my standpoint. And I think that was Joshua's standpoint too. But my focus between the conversation between these two celebrities was have a preference, love who you love, but just don't degrade, disrespect your own community, especially the women that birthed you. But it got a little off topic because what I heard was a lot of excusing of their poor judgment of saying this on a podcast where millions of people, Black and non-Black, can hear this and repeat this, and then hurt Black women with this type of commentary. That was my focus, and that should have been the focus. But the excuses or the arguments Joshua had was irrelevant, to be frank. His ignorance, his lack of education. Okay, you can sell millions of rock records, you can go around the world and meet all these exotic women and have all these, well-paid, smart people around you, but you can't keep your mouth shut when discussing Black women, i.e. your daughter, i.e. your ex-wife, i.e. people in your family, not degrading them. So Joshua's excuse, although I understand his liking and being a fan of this person, but making excuses for their poor behavior and their reckless degradation of me. I don't care if he has an education or not, or, it's irrelevant. You can be a non-educated person and still be respectful. What does that have to do with you not bashing your own daughter and your own wife and your own? I don't care if he would, like, him not having an education is not a good excuse. It's not something you present as far as the topic at hand, which is protecting Black women and mending the rift. So his statement was actually, his statement gives these rappers a pass and ignores Black women, which is my interpretation of what he said. The next thing I wanted to talk about as far as this, because we had a really great, meaty reflection on this topic, and I really do appreciate his points of view. They were really poignant and important, but some needed to be re-looked at and reanalyzed, and this is what this video is about. Next, let me show you another snippet.
Like, he is all about that, and he's all about uplifting Black people, which is why most of us listen to him. And he's trying to give game to young artists to make sure they don't go down the same loophole.
Uplifting Black people or uplifting Black men?
But that's also like he talked about like the Stallion on his podcast the last couple like the last 2 or 3 ones he's had, and he shot on her a little bit. Not really shot on her, but like they were shitting on Tory Lanez first, and then they shot on her a little bit, and then they had Payne apologize because that's what they do on their podcast. But reading about everything that happened from a realistic human standpoint, I understand Tory Lanez from a human standpoint.
Okay.
Like, my sister's 5'3". I understand Tory Lanez from a human standpoint. Like,
what do you mean?
Like, why he shot her. Like, I get it. She's very, like, he may be more dominant than him in some way. He's a very small guy.
So the next thing we talked about was the situation with the rapper Megan Thee Stallion and how she was a survivor of gun violence. And Joshua was saying how he was a listener to the Joe Budden podcast. I personally don't care for this person, this celebrity head, or his opinion. Just with previous things that he said, just the disrespect and the lack of nuance. It's not very intellectual, but that's not my thing. I'm not really into that, and to each his own. But what Joshua says is, I don't agree with half the things that he says, and Joe Budden doesn't care about anybody but himself, and he's really like egotistical, I guess, if that's the word. But Josh listens to him because he uplifts Black people, and we need that. We need to listen to other people that uplift Black people. Good job. But my question, my rebuttal was, does he uplift Black people or does he uplift Black men? Because when you're in a privileged place, you're thinking, oh, he's uplifting Black people. But when you're at a disadvantage or in a demographic that is even more disadvantaged, you see that, no, that's maybe not the case. But he thinks he uplifts Black people in general and not just Black men. But I thought that was odd because the very next comment that Josh made was, yeah, he talked about Megan Thee Stallion. So that means he's uplifting Black women too, right? And then Josh says, well, he shat on her. He shat on her. Okay, so is that a contradiction of you saying that he wants to uplift Black men and women? And then he backpedals a little bit and says, well, he didn't really shit on her, but this, to me, to a Black woman that is in another privileged class, to me, it sounded like you excusing another Black man for his lack of nuance, lack of accountability, lack of sympathy for Black women. It actually goes against our topic of protecting Black women, mending this rift. That's what I heard when you say, "Oh, he shat on her," but not really. Okay. But to Joe Budden's defense, he shat on Tory Lanez also, according to Josh. So that makes it okay, right? He shot on a man and a woman. Again, false equivalency. She was a survivor of gun violence. He was a perpetrator of that gun violence. To me, there's only one person you need to scold or have anything bad to say about. But I digress. So, according to Joshua, after hearing and reading about the incident of this rapper black woman being shot at twice, Joshua does not condone, we do not condone, no one, I hope, condones violence. I don't care what the situation is. If she's unarmed, which everyone agreed that she was, there's no excusing that. There is no reason. Okay? Twice. Shooting twice. Shot twice. Okay. But what bothered me, and that's clear that it bothered me in the video, because I just, whew. When Josh said, I don't condone it. Yes, don't condone it. But I understand. We were here. We were here. But then you understand what? I understand how he can get to that point. Okay. Let's analyze this. Introspection. That's what Room Madame is about. Introspection. So you understand how, and the excuse, Joshua's excuse was because Megan Thee Stallion is tall. Because she's tall. Okay. Josh says maybe he thought she was more dominant than him or something because she's... Okay. This is where white supremacy and racism all comes in. And the adaptation and us adopting this racism and misogyny and all this, and we place it on black women. So adopting the same people, adopting the same mentality of the races, that this vision they have on black women, you also repeat and adopt and think the same way. Because let's say, for instance, Megan Thee Stallion wasn't Megan Thee Stallion. Let's say Megan Thee Stallion is Heidi Klum, a model, very tall. So that's your excuse. She was tall, he's short, he felt intimidated or felt like she was a threat. So if that was Heidi Klum, tall, white, blonde, a model, would you still be saying this same thing like, oh, maybe Heidi Klum could have dominated him? No. White supremacy tells you that black women are these angry, super, have like to fight, strength, dangerous, and you reduce this man's violence because she's black and tall and maybe more dominant than him. So that is, you can understand why he used the gun on her twice. Make it understand to me, because it doesn't make understand to me. Yes, it's okay to try to get the other person's perspective, but no, you do not understand how this man couldn't have walked away. You cannot understand why this man chose to use a lethal weapon because this woman is tall. What? So basically what you're doing is giving every police officer who's shorter than the black man saying, oh, well, he was tall. Oh, well, he was a threat. So that's why I shot him. So you're using the same tactics as these people who hate us. So no, you do not understand why this black man shot this woman because she was tall. No. Also, I'll give you another quick example. Serena Williams. All of her career, I'm a big fan of Serena Williams. I love Serena Williams and her sister Venus. Love. Throughout her career, she is not granted her womanhood, her femininity, or her grace. She's not allowed to do that because she's an athlete, because she's strong, because she has muscles. People want to have her face men because that's how powerful she seems to be. So that gives Tory Lanez excuse to shoot Megan Thee Stallion because everyone has this collective nonsense, stereotypical, dangerous, and violent perception of black women. Even a black man, queer black man, who's a sociologist major, can understand this black man and be more sympathetic, in my opinion. This is what I heard. Is him being more sympathetic to this black man who committed a crime towards this black woman than the sympathy he should have gave 100%. No understanding of where he came from because she's tall type of behavior and this type of commentary. I think it's weak. No, Megan deserves her grace. Megan deserves her womanhood. Megan deserves her femininity. And she didn't deserve to get shot because she was tall. And I don't think Josh was saying that. I'm not saying that Josh believed that she deserved, but saying you understand Tony or whatever his name is, again, like Lil Wayne and like Joe Budden, in the same conversation, making excuses or not making excuses, because that's not what he did, but sympathizing with abuse, understanding why abuse like this can come to a man's head. No, sorry. That is a perpetuation of the same thing we're talking about. It's protecting black women. If this conversation is about protecting black women and mending this rift, these words of, oh, but I understand him, means you're ignoring the woman. That's all I'll say about that. No, that's not all I'll say. I have one note because I thought this was kind of like sends it home, was the fact that I had a friend who nearly died because the people at the hospital didn't believe that she was in pain. And my friend recently recounted this event and attached an article, which is very commonly known now. I think it's in popular culture, how black women are not believed by hospital staff because they, maybe it's intentional or not, subconscious or not, but they have this idea, this idea that women, black women, don't feel pain like their white counterpart. This also ties into the abuse of black women because they have this idea that our pain is different. Our strength is different. So yeah, maybe Megan Thee Stallion was more dominant and that's why he felt threatened. Because this collective white supremacist idea of black women. So yes, we need to break that. I.e., don't say, oh, I understand why this abuse could have happened. No, let's just nip it in the bud now. Sorry, but let's continue. I'd like to end on a good note because there was a lot of powerful quotes that Josh made. He said, we need a common language Black men and Black women need a common language because that's what we do not have. A common language to talk to one another. To talk to one another. There's a language barrier. Like me speaking French to someone who doesn't know, a language barrier. I like that. That was a good quote that he said. Also, Josh made a really, really good point. He said, there's a lot of toxicity in the Black culture, and we defend it because that's all we have. Wow. It's getting dark here. I went on a rant a little bit, but hopefully you understood where I was coming from. And go ahead and subscribe to the Patreon account and see the entire video with Josh and myself talking about this. I very much appreciate your support, and tell me what you think. Leave a comment, like, subscribe, and share, and I'll see you next time. Bye.